Welcome to a special Pollinator Week Beekeeping Today podcast. Beekeeping Today podcast is your source for beekeeping news, information, and entertainment. I'm Jeff Ott.
And I'm Kim Flatham.
Hey guys! Global Patties is proud to sponsor this special Pollinator Week of Beekeeping Today podcasts. Global Patties is a family-run business that has been operating for over 17 years. They manufacture protein supplement patties for honeybees. Global offers a variety of standard patties made with a time-tested recipe of natural ingredients, with or without real pollen, and they also make custom patties to meet specific requests. Feeding your hives protein supplement patties will ensure they produce strong and healthy colonies by increasing brood production and overall honey flow. Global invented and made popular the sandwich patty design, which simplifies the handling process for beekeepers. Keep your bees going strong all summer long by supplementing with Global Patties. You can find out more at their website, www.globalpatties.com.
Hey, Kim. Well, happy anniversary of sorts. It's about a year ago, Pollinator Week, that we started the Beekeeping Today podcast.
Yeah, it's been a fun year, a learning curve, no doubt, and I hope our folks have stuck with us over this. We try to get it right, and it's so good that we're doing this with the same people we did a year ago, the Pollinator, the P2 people, as they like to be called, with Kelly and Vicki here today.
Yeah, last year was Amber Barnes, and this year Kelly and Vicki. So in a year or two, we'll get everybody at P2, and we'll have them here on the annual event on Beekeeping Today podcast.
Well, I'll tell you a quick thing. I've gotten involved with this group at another level with Kelly and some of the other people in P2, and they've got me going now on the Bee Friendly Farming Committee. So we may be hearing something about that later too.
Great. Well, let's call them up on Zoom and get this show on the road.
All right.
Hey, Kelly and Vicki. Welcome to Pollinator Week on Beekeeping Today podcast.
It's great to have you guys here. I don't know if you remember, but your group was the first group we talked to a year ago on Beekeeping Today podcast. So it's sort of our first anniversary, so welcome back.
Oh, thanks so much. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, Pollinator Partnership was episode 1. So it's fabulous to have you back on the first day of Pollinator Week in 2019. So we're glad that you're here.
Thanks.
And I guess if you're going to talk about Pollinator Week, this is probably one of the best groups that we could start with, Jeff. There's a lot more going on the rest of the week, of course, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But we've got Kelly, who's the director of programs and operations here. And let's just start with you, Kelly. Tell us what you do and what you want to tell us about Pollinator Week coming up.
Sure. Great. Thanks, Jeff and Kim. So my name's Kelly Rourke. I'm the director of programs and operations for Pollinator Partnership. I've been with our group for just over 6 years. I actually started as an intern and have just kind of, really become passionate about pollinators and have since been able to help coordinate and manage all of our 30 plus programs that Pollinator Partnership has. And, that really spans a lot of topics from monarch butterflies to honeybee health to our North American Pollinator Protection Campaign and Pollinator Week as well, which I'd love to tell you all about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Pollinator Week, we're kicking it off this today, actually, is a national celebration, but now it's really turned into more of a global celebration of pollinator species. So the bees, bats, butterflies, beetles, and birds, etc., they create so much for our food systems, contribute so much to our food systems, ecosystems, and our daily lives.
Oh, great. So how did Pollinator Week get started and by whom?
It was in the works for a while before it actually got established. It was an idea that Dr. Larry Stritch, who was the former Forest Service national botanist, and P2's current president, Lori Davies Adams, had devised together. So Pollinator Partnership initially got a resolution from the Senate and then a proclamation from the Secretary of Agriculture. And it was proclaimed as a national celebration. It was actually modeled after National Wildflower Week, which is something that Larry had, as national botanist, really headed up And that, for your information, is always the first week of May each year.
Nice.
So this really started at a time in 2006, where the National Academies of Sciences, National Research published a standalone book about the status of pollinators in North America. It was also around the time when the first inklings of colony collapse disorder became circulating in the press and in the pollinator sphere. So it was a very timely topic and good time for people to really band together and think about how we can protect pollinators and also celebrate them.
Well, Kelly, I'll be honest, that sounds really good, but what's next? What can I as a citizen, what can I as a beekeeper, can I as a bird watcher do to move this cause forward, to advance knowledge to the rest of the world? What's
Yeah,
I know you got a lot of things going, but point me in a bunch of directions.
Great. Good question. Yes. We are always happy to tell people what they can do to help pollinators. So the week is really about raising awareness about the importance of pollinators and to acknowledge the critical services that they provide. So that's the first step. Pollinator Week encourages people to engage in local or national efforts or even global efforts during the third week of June. So this year, the 17th through the 23rd, to generally just learn about pollinators and to educate others. So in doing so, Pollinator Partnership aims to promote a few critical messages that will really help us promote pollinators. So some things that everyday people can do are to plant for pollinators, so plant habitat, and also provide nesting sites for native pollinators like native bees. It's really important when you're thinking about doing those things to know your landscape, soil, and the native plants in your area. You can do things like reduce mowing and allowing some debris to build up in your garden or your yard that can provide critical habitat for pollinators. A few other things, it's important to be really conscious about your use of pesticides and reduce or eliminate the use. Supporting local pollinators, local beekeepers, and local farmers is really, really a great way to support your community and raise awareness while also reaping the rewards of what pollinators provide to us.
Do you have on your website the resources? So if I'm sitting in Olympia, Washington, and want to know, hey, what are native plants in this area? Are those resources available and identified?
Yes. So on our website, pollinator.org, we have a complement of eco-regional planting guides for the United States and also for Canada. And you can actually go to the website, put in your zip code or your postal code if you're in Canada, and look up a specific native planting list for your area. You can even filter it by if you want to attract, a hummingbird with a red plant. You'll be able to find something that will be suitable for your area there.
Oh, nice. Well, that's really good.
Yeah.
We'll have that listed on the website or on the show notes too, by the way.
I don't know, Jeff, if you've looked at their webpage, they've got it divided into sections that make it not only easy to use, but easy, lots of information. General pollinator facts, general facts about pollination, information for farmers and ranchers, for homeowners. So no matter where you are in life or what you are doing, there's something there that you can go and grab, and it's meant for you, not just some general stuff, which I found very helpful. And I thought I knew a lot, and suddenly I realized I didn't. So it's if you get a chance and you're looking for something to do that you can do in your backyard, that you can do on the back 40. Now, Kelly, tell me what I can do at the next level. How can I engage my local, state, and federal government? What can I do to motivate those people to help out?
That's a great question. So actually, surrounding Pollinator Week, there's a really unique opportunity to engage with policymakers at your state level. So for Pollinator Week, we actually solicit proclamations from the governors of each state. And actually, it's really expanded in the past few years to include parliamentary level representatives from Canada, and even actually at the more of the local level where there's mayors and city officials signing on as well. So that's a great way to voice your support of pollinators, your support of Pollinator Week, and the importance of all these issues, that are surrounding pollinator conservation. So encouraging those officials to recognize Pollinator Week is a really great first step to be able to engage those folks that are, making decisions at that high level. On our website as well, we actually give suggested text and language for how you may be able to approach those individuals and get your voice heard. There's also lots of different events you can take part in during Pollinator Week, at community levels, more state levels. But in terms of, national or federal policies, there's a lot of resources on various conservation websites, Pollinator Partnership included, that can point you to best practices for managing for pollinators. So, for example, I'd give departments of transportation. A lot of DOTs are getting really engaged in incorporating good pollinator management into their practices that they're already doing. So you can help encourage those people that are managing roadsides near your house to incorporate, reduce mowing or integrated pest and vegetation management and things like that can help, spread the practice exponentially to support pollinators at all levels.
I wanted to go back to what you had said about finding an event nearby. I did search that out on your website, and I really like the interactive maps so that instead of messing around with a zip code or something, or if you're traveling, you want to go see if there's anything in a different state, you can just zoom in on that map and you can find the location, and that's really cool. And I noticed that there's an event up in Victoria, Canada, BC, which is not too far away, but that's a beautiful city. So anybody listening, our Canadian listeners, you want to go to a pollinator event. Victoria is beautiful this time of year. It's wonderful.
Thanks, Jeff. And actually, so the events that are surrounded around Pollinator Week are those that we list on the website and people can register. We had about 250 local events around the country last year that we helped to support and promote, which is just fantastic. We also have, in the past few years, been able to light up local landmarks. So we had Niagara Falls and the CN Tower in Toronto. We had San Francisco City Hall and other landmarks that are lit up for Pollinator Week, which is a really fun way for people to maybe be passing by and wonder what those black and yellow colors on the landmark are for, and then they can find out about Pollinator Week that way. We also this year, something that's fun and new that we're trying is to engage local restaurants through North America to showcase pollinator-dependent foods on their menus. That was actually one of Vicki's ideas. So I think it's really gotten a lot of great attention and traction. So that's another fun way to get involved.
Oh, that would be fun. That would be real good.
Just one more quick thing, Jeff. I know we're going to move on because I want to talk about the Mite-athon too that these guys work with. But all of this stuff is good and useful. But I'll tell you, all things considered, what I found the most useful piece of information on this was I want to contact my governor. How do I do it? And what do I say when I got him or her? And that is usually the stumbling block for most people is, what do I do next? I can't write the governor. Good grief. Who am I? And I'm not going to say it makes it easy, but it certainly makes it easy to understand the process. So if you or your beekeeping group or your gardening group want to take this above where you are now, there's some good information here. So get a hold of your governor, and here's how to do it right there. So Mite-athon. Now, we've worked with your group for the last 3 years. Bee Culture Magazine has here in helping promote that, to get people interested, to get people involved. And, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I am one of your worst customers because I've never been involved. But at least I admit it. But this is your bailiwick, Vicki?
Yeah, so hi, happy to be here and chat a little bit about the Mite-athon. My name's Vicki Wojcik, and I'm the Science and Research Director at Pollinator Partnership. A lot of our programs fall under my umbrella. A lot of the work that we do focuses on filling some critical data gaps in pollinator data availability, honeybee health data. That really helps us then do best management practice suggestions or helps with honeybee health issues and policy. So with respect to the Mite-athon, we've been doing this program for a few years now, where the overall goal is to encourage monitoring for Varroa so that we get a better national and international snapshot of the spatial temporal distribution of Varroa every year. And I don't need to tell anyone listening to this podcast that Varroa is an issue. It absolutely is. But it's something that I think a lot of times is considered as a given. And so, you have Varroa, we'll just deal with it. But we're trying to ask some more specific questions about Varroa mites, where they are, how intense Varroa infestations are, and what beekeepers are actually doing, because that's what we're quite interested in. So this year, the Mite-athon will go on from Saturday, September 7th to Saturday, September 14th. So we have a good solid week where we're trying to encourage beekeepers to monitor their Varroa status. We have basically two objectives with the Mite-athon. And the first is to raise awareness of the need to monitor and get some metrics on Varroa infestation. And then the second objective is to really try to understand what kind of management strategies are being used. So we're not doing any direct promotion of one particular method of Varroa treatment or Varroa treatment in general. We're really quite curious what beekeepers are choosing to do, even if that is choosing not to treat, because that'll be really valuable information for us.
Well, like I said, I haven't taken part of this, although I am right up there with you in trying to encourage people to, if nothing else, to at least have an idea of what the mite population in their colonies is, and perhaps in hindsight be able to make some assumptions, some decisions on what to do to move forward to have more success, or what was I doing was working. So encouraging people to test is right off the bat, probably, in my opinion, the best thing there is to do of this. The data that you get, and am I close in saying this is citizen science?
It is actually, yeah. No, that's a good way to frame it. So while we are actually promoting the Mite-athon, and we have a very large collaborative effort, and the Mite-athon data is actually collected through the Mite-check website and program. So we're doing the outreach, but Mite-check is one of our partners, in addition to the American Honey Producing and the American Beekeeping Federation, University of Minnesota, University of Michigan, University of Maryland, a whole other slew of partners that are all working on Varroa health. Honeybee health impacted by Varroa.
Well, ill health is okay for Varroa.
I don't care so much about that Varroa health. They seem to be doing okay, right? Yeah. So what we're doing is actually feeding into a really large-scale citizen science data collection program where we couldn't get this level of information on our own. No single individual could take this effort on. We had in 2017 over 900 beekeepers participate in the Mite-athon. The numbers were a little bit lower in 2018, just under 700. But in total, we had 2,300 hives checked and reported. Now, when we ask beekeepers to monitor, we're not asking them to do every single hive. We're asking them to monitor a subset of hives and then tell us how large their operation is. So we also get another piece of information on, where Varroa infestations might be occurring, where they might not be occurring, and basically what kind of efforts are being made by all sorts of beekeepers.
Is that, you said over 700, is it 700 hives or 700 beekeepers? I missed that. Sorry.
700 beekeepers. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the total hives are 2,300.
Okay.
So we are primarily dealing with a lot of smaller operations in the scale of beekeeping. We would love to be able to include, going forward, some larger and more commercial beekeepers. I know a lot of times self-define a beekeeper, but we do. Our beekeeping categories had skewed much more hobbyist than sideliner in this particular survey. It would be great to see how some of the larger operations compare in terms of what they're doing and what their numbers are like.
You know, it'd be really interesting if you've take a chance to look at take an opportunity to listen to our prior podcast. We had Dr. Jerry Bromanshank on the podcast, and he and his partners are developing an application that runs on the phone that you can. It's called Bee Health Guru, and you can put your phone right inside the front door of the hive or entrance, and it can tell by the sounds of the hive whether there's varroa infestation or the health of the hive. So if you could
that's wonderful.
if you could talk to Dr. Bromanshank and key in on him to be able to tap into some of his the information they're gathering from hives around the country as their program rolls out. I mean, that would be an automatic feed into the Mite-athon program that you're working on.
It would be.
Yeah, that would be great.
It would be. That would be good because, I mean, he's sharing data that's anonymous from the beekeeper's perspective. Yeah. But what you would have is location and counts. So, well, there's your assignment, Vicki. Contact Jerry and see what you can work out.
I will give him a call as soon as I can. No, that sounds great. You know, one of the limiting factors is while we absolutely are facilitating as easy and seamless a process as possible with the Mite-athon, and we aren't dictating how you should check for mites. The two most commonly used accepted methods are a sugar roll or an alcohol wash, and they all take a little time and a little hive handling. So having something remote where you could just hold your phone up to the hat and get a clue. Oh, that makes the data collection so much faster.
It wouldn't.
Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say it wouldn't give you absolute counts, but it would tell you whether the hive show it is positive for varroa. So if Dr. Bromanshank's happy that we referred you or that you heard about it, then you can tell him that you heard it on Beekeeping Today podcast. If he's not happy about it, just say you read it in a newspaper article.
Perfect. No, happy to do so.
I'm wondering if some collaboration with the VIP people who are you're looking for hives of big operations, and that's where they focus their time. I'm guessing that you already do, or you are heading in that direction, because that would be a good source of that kind of information.
Yeah, no, we work with Dennis Bengelsdorf quite closely, and it's just been a bit of a struggle to get the larger operations, which are already dealing with that extra order of magnitude of everything, to tap into this. But you know, I'm always an optimist, and I think this year we're doing a very big marketing push to let everyone know about the Mite-athon. So hopefully we will have a few larger operations. And if anyone is interested in the Mite-athon, you can find the information directly on our website, pollinator.org/Mite-athon. And you can always email us or give us a call as well if you have some questions that aren't answered by the website.
Is there a time period for the Mite-athon? Is it?
Yeah, I just mentioned it right in my intro. So September 7th to September 14th, but I don't mind saying it again because being reminded over and over makes you put it on your calendar. So, yep.
Well, that's good. Repeat it often. There are people with short attention spans.
Yes.
Well, the other thing I'll say, Vicki, is like I said, we've been working with you for the last 3 years, promoting the Mite-athon on Catch the Buzz, and I'm guilty as charged when it comes to, I'm really good at getting other people's information out rather than having to dig it up myself. So if you are more than willing to share earlier in the year than August, we are more than willing to share it with the Catch the Buzz people. So, one in June and one in July and one in August would get people going, and then remind them and then say, okay, now go out and do this. So I'll just leave that right there. What else on the Mite-athon, Vicki?
Well, the only other thing I'd mention is that, we have actually quite a few, in the past, had quite a few sponsors, some of the usual suspects and some unusual suspects. For example, a beauty product company called Valmont, which makes very high-end anti-aging skin creams from hive products. that has a general deep interest in honeybee health. So we're soliciting sponsorships for the Mite-athon, as everyone does in this game, to help us underwrite the costs and to potentially be able to provide some grants to work on further research and data analysis as we go forward.
Very good.
Well, that sounds good. In fact, that's something probably we could help with, because we reach a lot of people who aren't actually just beekeepers, who have a vested interest in the beekeeping industry. You mentioned some who use honeybee products. I work with the growers on the pollination end and the beekeeping equipment suppliers on that end. So, and they all have, like I said, a vested interest in keeping bees alive and beekeepers in business. So, as we're working on this coming summer and fall, let's keep those people in mind. Maybe we can target them a little more specifically rather than just the backyard beekeeper, because that would assist you on several levels, I think.
No, that would be great. Yes, if you are even remotely connected to a honey product and care a little bit, you can support the Mite-athon and get the word out and really support some good science. But you gave me a great segue there, Kim, to talk about another stakeholder group, the farmers, and one of the programs that we have at Pollinator Partnership called Bee-Friendly Farming.
Well, I just actually know a little bit about that. I just I got drafted into that committee somehow, and I think, Kelly, it's your fault.
I think so. I think I'm guilty there.
We were at a meeting in Washington earlier this year, and shortly after that meeting, I got a letter from P2 that said, by the way, you were on this committee and we were having a conference call and about bee-friendly farming. So since you got me involved, I'm going to say, tell us about bee-friendly farming.
Perfect, and we're happy to have you. It's a great program that's growing. So bee-friendly farming started as a collaboration between beekeepers and farmers locally in Sonoma, California, back in 2008. So again, at this time where issues with bee health were really starting to hit the media hard, everyone knew that there were challenges with bee health, and everyone was thinking of what they could do to help, and a logical fit to many people. The one that somehow gets overlooked on and off is the connection you can have between farmers and beekeepers working together to support bee health. It's mutually beneficial. Is to provide a certification to a farm that shows that farm has practices that are good for pollinators. So there's a few criteria that we have in bee-friendly farming, and they're pretty obvious. If you are a beekeeper, they'll make perfect sense to you. And one is setting aside a portion of the farm landscape between 3 to 6% for bee forage, so that there's bee food on the property throughout the season. We're a little more specific in that as well, that we want that food to be blooming throughout the season, spring, summer, late summer blooms, but have some non-cropped landscape that provides bee food. Also provide a source of clean water for bees. And this kind of feeds into the last one, which is very important for bee health support, and is to be very mindful of the pesticide treatments that you're conducting, focusing on integrated pest management, IPM, and really looking at, if you have the ability to make the choice to use products that have less residual toxicity or overall less toxic to bees, avoiding systemic products if possible, avoiding the use prophylactically if possible. And, we have a very broad definition of how a farmer can manage their landscape, because we want to include everyone. But we really are trying to push some of these strategies that make the overall landscape better for bees. Now, if you do this and you register, you can be certified as a bee-friendly farm. You would have a sign on your farm that lets everyone know that. And we actually also provide the same logo branding for any farm products that you actually sell. And this has been a really big selling feature to farmers, especially ones that are sustainable farmers and organic farmers, so that when they go to their local farmers market, they can display a sign and have a sticker on their product that says that this food is produced in a bee-friendly way. And we work with our local beekeepers, and we're mindful about bee health and how we manage the landscape. So since 2008, we've registered 750 bee-friendly farmers across North America. And registration is really straightforward. Like I mentioned, we kind of suckered you into our committee. The registration is a $35 fee, and you are set if you've done our criteria A, B, C, D. And as well, you can always find out more details about bee-friendly farming at pollinator.org. And I'm just really interested in this program myself, and I'm happy to chat some more if you have questions, because there's a huge opportunity to promote bee health in agricultural landscapes. And that's just a place where I like to do a lot of my work and research and investigation.
Well, of course, the other side of that coin is who says you're doing this, and I can register and I can say, but who's going to back me up? Who comes and looks at my stuff and says, yes, they are doing this. Yes, they are following the rules and regulations, and yes, they should be declared bee-friendly farming. Where's that kind of support coming from?
So with bee-friendly farming, you actually become part of the bee-friendly farming community, and it is a self-policed, self-regulated group of folks out there. So, I mean, of course, as with anything, there is the potential for someone to perhaps stretch the truth slightly, but we found that most individuals, probably all individuals that register for this program, are very well-meaning and definitely do what they say. And you do have to annually renew your membership again. So we are constantly communicating with you, matching you with other local bee-friendly farmers, and there's a lot of camaraderie there. So that usually is a good check and balance to what you mentioned.
Well, having, like I said, I go way back with this group, back to the beginning days. So I've been familiar with the program and with all of the things that you've mentioned. So if I wanted to get involved in your group, I go to your webpage and I sign up, and there's a fee to get registered. What's the reward for me in terms of, because I don't go to farm markets, if I'm that kind of a farmer and I can't sit and talk to you one-to-one, what kind of reward do I get?
Well, so if you're a larger farmer or a farmer that just their operation does not fit with like a truck farmers market model, we do have the ability to use the bee-friendly farming logo on farm products that you sell, if you do sell directly. If not, though, we have actually seen quite a lot of interest from some larger corporate partners that might source that have a desire to have their providers and their producers be sustainable, certified in some sustainable way. So there is a benefit there because people are thinking about this. Organic certification is already out there, but now people are thinking, well, what about how do you treat your animals? How do you go that one step further for the ecosystem? So there certainly is a benefit that pays forward to being part of the bee-friendly farming community.
Not long ago, we talked to Eric Wenger, who was with True Source Honey, and this is, they're a little more rigorous than what you outlined, but there's still some of that involved. But they took it the next step, and they are now beginning to create consumer demand for honey that has been checked through their organization. And I can see that would have a value for a farmer if I can say, if a customer comes to me and says, farmer A is got oranges or apples, and farmer B has the same oranges or apples, but it says bee friendly, sourced from a bee friendly farm,
Exactly.
Are you heading in that direction?
Well, we're definitely looking at that. And one thing that we are pursuing is very similar to what you mentioned, where we're trying to now look at really technical crop specific bee-friendly farming certification to really give that farmer that competitive edge, both in terms of the outreach that they can do and the messaging when they're selling their product directly to the consumer or to a supplier or producer, but also that the actions they take on their landscape are specific to their crop. So it's bee-friendly farming 2.0. You don't just set aside this particular piece of land. You plant it with this particular mix of flowers because that is better for the crop that you're growing. The bees that are foraging on your crop do better and pollinate more when they have these specific habitat requirements next to your crop. And that's a big leap. And that's something that we'll be working on in the next few years to really hash out those technical guidelines for specific bee-friendly farming.
Is there a list of the bee-friendly farms on the website as well? So if I wanted to...
Absolutely. It's we have a nice map on the bee-friendly farming website, and you can zoom in geographically, see who's local. Most bee-friendly farmers register their properties and provide some great photos, and there's information about each operation. And we, like I said, we are starting to get some larger, more commercial producers. So one of our signature bee-friendly farmers right now is the Francis Ford Coppola Vineyard, and there you can buy a bottle of wine grown on one of their bee-friendly farms, and it has our great little bee-friendly farming logo. So it certainly differentiates that product from a lot of the market.
I'll go look for that at the local wine store.
So what you need next is you need people walking into Whole Foods and say, I want bee-friendly farm food, instead of, I'm not sure where this came from.
No, absolutely. And I think it's definitely moving that way. We've had such a great partnership with Whole Foods. If a lot of people probably can picture this image, but there's a picture that gets shared during Pollinator Week where it's your grocery store with bees and without bees. Yep. And that's the Whole Foods in Maryland that did that photo a couple years back. So they're mindful and they're very interested in this. And I think people are asking these questions. You do overhear it. When I'm at the grocery store, I get really excited when I hear those conversations when someone wants to know, is this sustainably farmed? Is it, are the bees okay when I buy this?
Well, that's what the people listening to this need to do then. The next time you go to the grocery store, no matter the grocery store, you just need to start saying, I want, or I need, or do you have? And consumer demand is the ultimate threat here for producers. So that's what you're looking for.
I like it.
And I wish we could hurry it up. It'd be nice if we could get more people to be asking these things. And I'll go back to the True Source honey. Suddenly, people who are making things with honey are able to say made with True Source honey, and that's exactly where you guys are headed. And consumer demand is it's the ultimate driver, without a doubt.
Yeah, no, it's definitely there. So our goal right now is to grow the bee-friendly farming program to include 2,000 certified bee-friendly farms by 2020, and we're working on those more specific guidelines and everything. So we're looking forward to the future of bee-friendly farming, and I'd love to see it as a certification.
Yeah.
So a couple episodes ago, we had Jonathan Lundgren on the show, and he's very heavily into sustainable farming. And I think that would be another good matchup between the bee-friendly farming and sustainable farming in terms of ultimate goals of more natural and pollinator-friendly production of food. I think it's a good program.
Well, you guys are giving me a long list of people to talk to in the future.
Promoting the podcast.
There you go.
That's right. I like making new friends or reconnecting with old ones.
Well, he's really good, and he's also, if you get a chance, see the movie The Pollinators that we had the director producer Peter Nelson on a couple episodes ago too, and that's where I first saw Jonathan Lundgren, although Kim knows him from prior times.
Well, thanks. We aim to make the landscape better for the pollinators that bring us our food and pollinate the natural plants out there.
Good.
The next thing on the listed, when we were talking to both of you earlier, setting this up, was the NAPPC Honeybee Health Task Force. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know a whole lot about this. Who could fill me in here?
Yeah, this is Kelly. So I'd be happy to share a bit about our NAPPC Honeybee Health Grant Program, which is managed by the task force you mentioned. So NAPPC, as we say for short, is the North American Pollinator Protection Campaign. And this is a growing collaborative body of more than 170 diverse partners. So this includes scientists, researchers, conservationists, government officials, dedicated volunteers and activists. The mission of NAPPC is to encourage the health of resident and migratory pollinating animals throughout North America. So these partners I mentioned, under the administration and coordination of Pollinator Partnership, have gathered from throughout the North American continent and beyond for almost the past 20 years. And the model of NAPPC is set up with working groups, which we call task forces. And these, Honeybee Health is one of these task forces of NAPPC. So the NAPPC Honeybee Health Task Force, along with USDA, has identified the following priority areas to fund research for honeybee health. So this task force looks at the effects of pathogens and pests on honeybee behavior, physiology, or colony health, effects of nutrition and pesticides on pest pathogens and disease incidents, the effects of parasite and pathogen spillover between bee species, the development of approaches for genetic stock improvement of honeybee populations to enhance resistance to pathogens and pesticides, or parasites, and also looking at, this is one priority area added on more recently, looking at the effects of climate or environmental variables on honeybee health. And then lastly, with all these research topics and priority areas, one kind of really important component would be the development of field-ready diagnostics or indicators of the presence of pests, pathogens, diseases that affect honeybee health. So, that app that Dr. Bromenshake came up with for Varroa presence would certainly fit into that priority area. So Pollinator Partnership manages this task force that puts out an RFP each year to solicit proposals for these grants. Pollinator Partnership has raised over $420,000 for honeybee health programs, and it has distributed grants totaling close to $400,000 to researchers throughout North America. And one thing that I find really remarkable about this program is that everyday people have contributed over $60,000 to these research grants. And we've even had some really special people pay tribute to beekeepers through memorial funds of lifetime beekeepers that benefit honeybee health research. And we've actually featured some of those on our website as well.
Well, one of the things that you mentioned, I'm not going to say you glossed over, but there's certainly a lot of specifics that I know that you guys are chasing, and I really want you to get them solved really soon, because I'm having trouble with all of them. I think Varroa was the big one, but you also mentioned nosema and a lot of others. And the word that you use is stressors. And therein lies probably the secret of what's the worst thing going on in a honeybee colony is not only the amount of stress, but the number of factors leading to that amount of stress. So when I'm a researcher and I'm looking at one of these stressors, how do I go about approaching you to help fund my program so that I can investigate this further?
Great question. So we put out our request for proposals each fall. So usually just after our annual conference when the Honeybee Health Task Force has just met. So about end of October to November, we released the request for proposals. It's a pretty simple application process, a pretty short proposal outlining your project and which priority areas your research falls under. They're relatively small grants of a maximum of $10,000 per grant. So usually these are they're sometimes supporting new research, but oftentimes supporting research that has been going on for a while. So a lot of times it's really great that these grants have helped certain studies get to the finish line and get published and really, solidify what they've been doing for a long time. Recipients of this year's grants were actually decided. So after the RFP period, we come together as a task force and we review all the applications. And then in March, we are able to come up with decisions and fund the certain amount of projects depending on the funding for that certain year. Funding for this program comes mainly from USDA APHIS, which actually does help dictate some of those priority areas we were hearing about. But it also is supported through corporate sponsors and also those individuals I was mentioning that Pollinator Partnership is able to help fundraise for. So this year's grant recipients are, I'll give you some examples of some of the projects that people are working on. Dr. Christina Grosinger at Penn State University is investigating the effectiveness of manipulating pollen macronutrient ratios to improve honeybee resilience to pesticide stress. So there's that one, looking at pesticide stressors. We also have the University of Maryland looking at viral behavior invading brood cells, the consequences of co-infested cells. We've got someone from the University of Guelph looking at the role of crop flowers as reservoirs of pathogens to influence the pollinator community. We have Penn State University, again, looking at researching the breeding for tolerance to deformed wing virus in honeybees. We've got another one from Texas A&M University, quantifying the impacts of pesticide contamination in the wax rearing environment of developing honeybee queen cells. Lastly, we have a new university to the grant cycle. The California State University at Fresno is assessing synthetic Amorphicilla for the management of small hive beetle. So you'll see that they're really specific honeybee health studies, but all within, looking at really important, acute stressors of the honeybee. So all really important. We have all these researchers come to our annual conference each year and tell our conference group at NAPPC about their research, and we're able to have Q&A with them. And it's always a really great experience to have these researchers there and talk to them firsthand.
What's the size of an average grant or the range? Mm-hmm.
So we have a max of $10,000 for these grants.
That's good. Very nice.
Mm-hmm. And it's usually most come in right at that request. So we're usually able to fund about 5 to 6 per year.
Nice. Well, that's a good program. I'm sure it's well received.
Yeah, and if you're interested in learning more about it or looking at how you may be able to support these researchers, pollinator.org/honeybee-health is the URL there.
Very good. We'll make sure we get that posted with the show notes too.
Well, it sounds like it's all of those, I'm going to say, far more practical. What I find out you can almost apply tomorrow. And managing a colony better and reducing stress and making life better for bees and beekeepers. So although they're not huge, certainly the answers that they find all of them combined are going to be beneficial. So keep up the good work. And for the people listening, now is the time to talk to your group and say, well, we could kick in a couple $100 to that program or something, right?
Absolutely. We would definitely encourage that. Thank you.
Yeah, I know quite a few bee groups that are sitting on a lot of money. They're not spending. They just like seeing it there in the bank accounts. But there's a good way to spend some of that money for a good cause that benefits all beekeepers.
And the money that they give is going to help them tomorrow.
That absolutely.
Yeah. So
it's a good program.
It's a good thing to do and a good thing to consider if you've got a group there. So. What have we missed here? We've talked about Pollinator Week and all of the projects that you guys are involved in, the Mite-athon program that we're going to promote a little bit stronger and a little bit earlier this year, I think, with a little help from our friends. We can get more information out there. The bee-friendly farming program, which that's what I do. I'm a farmer at heart, although I don't get my hands dirty as often as I would like, and I'm really encouraged by how that program is progressing. And then the health grants. We've covered a lot of information here in an hour. What have we missed?
I don't think we've missed a whole lot. I really appreciate the chance to share, from Pollinator Week to Mite-athon, bee-friendly farming to the research, Pollinator Partnership. We're just really working to support the interests of beekeepers, honeybees, and looking out for all pollinator species to ensure that they're supported in all capacities. And we're science-based. We favor cooperation and partnership. I mean, it's in our name. We are always welcome. We always welcome anyone to come and talk to us. We're always accepting ideas. And if anyone does, want to follow up at all on anything you heard today or a different idea you might have for our group, you're always welcome to give us a call or email us at info@pollinator.org. And would love to engage with you.
I know that we have today, much of what we do is looking at your group and the pollinator program from the honeybee perspective. And that's because you're talking to two beekeepers here, but there is a much broader program out there. And for the people listening, certainly be aware of the fact that these people do a lot more than just honeybees, and everything that they do for pollinators other than honeybees can only help. So in the long run, it's a better day because of the things that they're involved in.
Yeah, they were. I was surprised at the number of different programs involved, and just beyond the honeybees. So I think it's. I was surprised, happily surprised. So it's good work.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think just in closing, I'd like to just, as it is Pollinator Week, let everyone know Pollinator Partnership is participating in the Big Day of Giving. So on June 20th of this week, we are having a bit of a fundraising effort for Pollinator Week, future years of Pollinator Week, and all these great programs that we are working hard on and have been sharing with you today. So feel free to buzz over to our website, pollinator.org, and you can check that out and see how you may be able to help if you're able. Just want to say Happy Pollinator Week.
Well, I think I got a lot better just because of all of this that I've heard today.
Absolutely.
Very encouraging. Really appreciate you guys being here and sharing what you know. And now that your group was the first that we had, and now that you're the first on our first anniversary. So if not before, we look forward to talking to you again a year from now.
That's right.
How's that?
Keep the tradition going.
Sounds perfect. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, that was good. That was a good anniversary discussion of Pollinator Partnership and the programs that they have in place and are working on this year.
Yeah, I couldn't think of a better way to open up Pollinator Week, both in our podcast and to have these folks be part of it. They've done a lot, in raising awareness and the services available, getting the governors of a lot of states involved, the governments of a lot of states involved, and backyard owners and gardeners and people who want to grow clover in their lawn. All of these things are inching forward because of the efforts of these people. I think the thing that I'm most involved in of any of these, of course, is making sure that these plants are out there you and I are honeybee people, Jeff.
Yep.
And we're looking at it from a honeybee's perspective, but everybody's got to eat, and honeybees aren't the only ones out there. The bee-friendly farming part of what they do is getting off the ground. And I'm kind of excited about that because I'm a farmer and I'm a beekeeper, and I'm glad that it's heading in the right direction. And of course, they're looking for their Honeybee Health Coalition work, which is making life better for beekeepers. So there they are working hand in hand with us. And they put out their hand. They said, we can use some donations. They're giving away $10,000 scholarships every year, several of them.
Yeah.
They're not setting the world on fire. They're a small group, but what they're doing is making a difference. And I can do nothing but commend them for that. So a good way to start Pollinator Week, a good group of people to work with, and I'm glad we were able to do it, Jeff.
Yeah, me too. Well, that's about it, Kim. Before we go, I want to encourage our listeners to rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or wherever you download or stream the show. Your vote helps other beekeepers find us quicker. We want to thank this episode's sponsor, Global Patties. Global Patties is a family-operated business which has been operating for over 17 years and manufactures protein supplement patties for honeybees. Check them out at www.globalpatties.com. And while you're there, give them a shout out for sponsoring this great program with Kelly and Vicki from Pollinator Partnership. Finally, we want to thank you, the Beekeeping Today podcast listener, for joining us on this show. Feel free to send us questions and comments. I'll try that again. Feel free to send us questions and comments to questions@beekeepingtodaypodcast.com. We'd love to hear from you. Anything else, Kim, before we got to go? We have 4 more shows this week.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing, Jeff. Jim Two and I got a show coming up this week, and it's going to be live on Tuesday.
Yes.
If you missed it, then you can go back and get it on our webpage, the Kim and Jim Show. But Jim and I are going to be working AI Root Company bees, and we're going to be sitting on AI Root's front porch talking about all the things that have gone on in that famous piece of property. So if you haven't caught it yet, tune in. If you missed it, you can catch it on our webpage. It's a really a great show.
Oh, sounds like it. You guys always are fun to be around, so I'm looking forward to watching it. Well, thanks a lot, Kim. We'll catch you tomorrow.
All right, Jeff.
Bye-bye.